This is Evangelist George McTyre of the Word of God Ministry, and as usual, I would like to thank you once again for taking the time to view this message today regarding our views and so forth concerning stem cell research, the pros and cons of it. There's a lot of information going forth about which side is right. On the one hand, you have the side of the people that are afflicted with all sorts of diseases and so forth, who are looking for a cure to their medical or physical problems. And according to scientists, some scientists and so forth, they say that stem cell research is showing vast amounts of success in at least making life better for people that are afflicted with diseases like multiple sclerosis and I don't know all of the other diseases and so forth, Parkinson's disease and things like that. And you know, when you're sick, when you are in a situation where you're disabled or something like that, anything that holds the promise of making life better for you is surely something that all of us, including myself, would want to see occur, or go forth, hopefully to eradicate a lot of the diseases and things like that that cause so much suffering, so much pain, that sometimes people that are afflicted with these diseases just don't want to live anymore, and they seek ways to just end their life than to go through the suffering. And the promise of a cure is like the light at the end of the tunnel. You've been in a dark tunnel for a long time, and now something comes up that's going to possibly give you the hope that that light is getting closer. Then on the other hand, you have those of us, and I would include myself in that say that this stem cell research is at least is a situation where we need to be very careful about what we're doing and why we are doing it. And as I said, we look at situations, in fact some of us that might even be afflicted with some of these diseases that I just mentioned, when they look at what stem cell research is doing, and even though it provides some sort of hope, they tend to stand on a moral ground and say, well, if stem cell research requires that we engage in some sort of evil just to have a hope of eradicating this disease or these afflictions, that we would choose rather to suffer than to go down a path of evil just to have a chance to live a better life. And so there's a moral ground there. Now, I would like to say this: most of the stem cell research that I'm talking about, that is of the this evil It's not all stem cell research that's evil, but this idea of embryonic stem cell research, that is what has most people, including myself, not wanting to see that go forward because of the implications of what it would take in order for that particular research to go forth. There are other scientists that have said that they found other ways of using stem cells from people that are grown, that is also providing, the same type of relief. So what we're having is a kind of stalemate between, do we want to go with embryonic stem cells, or do we want to go with the stem cells from mature people? And most of the push happens to be towards the stem cells right now, still from the embryonic standpoint, but the case is being made that we don't need to use embryonic stem cells when we can use other stem cells. Now, as I have mentioned before, if you've looked at any of the other messages that I have produced, we tend to look for solutions to problems without considering what one individual has to say, and that is Jesus Christ. God has viewpoints on these issues. As I said, there's no issue that is facing us today that he does not have something to say about it. And as I have also said, and you've heard it time and again, but let me repeat it. If you have a problem and you're seeking a solution, yet you do not consider what God has to say about the solution that you come up with, then quite frankly, you do not have a solution. You have a temporary fix at best, which over time will turn into a complete disaster. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself right now. But as I had mentioned, I want to use, for example, two scriptures. The first one, if you've been following some of these clips and things that I have produced and have online on YouTube, the first one is quite familiar. It's found in Hosea, the Old Testament book of Hosea, chapter number 4 and verse number 6. And you will find these words recorded: "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt not be a priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children." And then I want you to go to St. John, chapter number 15 and verse number 5. And here you'll find these words. This is Jesus Christ speaking. And he says this: "I am the vine, You are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. Now, taking the last part of this verse for a minute, I want to explain something to you. Jesus is saying here, without me, you can do nothing. Now, you remember earlier I just said about your solutions. If you don't have, if you don't consider or have Christ supporting what you're doing, which essentially means you have to be following his direction in order for him to support you in what you're doing. If you're trying to do something without him, then he's not going to be supporting it. So therefore, you're not going to get anywhere. Which brings me, as I said, down to the idea about stem cell research. Now, as we know, as I started out saying, our problem is that we have always been trying to find cures for all the different diseases and so forth that are afflicting mankind. And the idea of the search for cures is honorable. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody suffer. It's a good thing to find something to cure a disease or anything that is causing people to suffer. But here is where we run into problems, and that is, to what extent do you want to go to try to alleviate suffering from a particular person or a group of people or whatever? Well, as in most cases, there's always a moral imperative or something moral that the idea of trying to find a cure for diseases and things, that is a moral notion, to find that cure for that disease. But at the same time, we must be aware that a solution that we may come up with may not fit into the realm of what is moral, but rather fit into the realm of what is immoral or devilish. So then we have the conundrum here of, well, what do we do? Because right now the answer seems to be going this route, irrespective of what others may say. The whole point is we want a cure for this disease. But now Jesus just said that without him you can do nothing. Now let's take a look at, if we go back through decades and so forth, polio, mumps and diseases like that, diseases that once afflicted millions of people, children especially, are no longer that serious because we've just about all but eradicated them. But at the time when we found the cures for these diseases and so forth, we were people who had a moral conscience about ourselves.